it was really, really hard. And I didn't actually deal with really the problems of what like emotionally I was going through until actually like maybe 6 months after, when it actually hit me and I started getting like these panic attacks and feeling like super anxious about stuff.
And how was that feeling for you? Because so I've been bankrupt personally. I've liquidated businesses over the years, and it's something that people always come to me for advice on. And normally the narrative put around bankruptcy, put around that business going into liquidation is always very don't do it, avoid it at all costs. When you go bankrupt, your life's going to be over. But the analogy I always give is I talk about a cancer patient and basically say that if you've got somebody who's dying of terminal cancer, their life is horrendous. They're gonna, whatever it is, months, years of chemotherapy, of radiotherapy, of feeling like shit, of being in and out of hospital, of knowing ultimately that they are going to die. And at the point that they die, it's probably a blessing to them. It's an end to all these problems, and they can move on to a better world and leave everything behind them. And I liken that very much to the situation of failed businesses or personal debts that lead to bankruptcy. Because when people go, oh, but if you go bankrupt, your credit's going to be fucked. Your credit already is well fucked. If you're actually at the stage of talking about maybe needing to look at bankruptcy, you've suffered months, if not years, of red letters, of unpaid bills, of not being able to pay your staff, of not sleeping, of not eating, of not being able to do anything you really probably want to do financially. And that moment of bankruptcy comes, and it's if anything, it's a relief. You're drawing a line on those problems, and yes, that doesn't mean tomorrow is going to be a walk in the park. It's not. You're starting from zero and you're building back up again. But at least you are going to zero. You're being able to walk away from all those stresses that ultimately are just continuing to pull you down. And yes, people always want to say, well, I don't want to get morally, I want to be able to keep my head held high and say I never went bankrupt. But I mean, ultimately, if you've got, for argument's sake, 100 grand of income and 10 million quid of the debts, it doesn't matter how fucking high you want to hold your head, you're never ever going to be able to fix that position. So at some point you've got to bite the bullet and take your medicine. But how was it for you? You've talked about sleeping 3 hours a night, not eating properly, not being comfortable with the staff. I mean, what was it? Was it a relief? Were you scared? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's failure is just like a really difficult thing, because I think as any business owner, there's an element of ego that you have. There's a story that you tell yourself every day, and it feels like you've failed in that. It was really, really hard, and I didn't actually deal with really the problems of what emotionally I was going through until actually like maybe 6 months after, when it actually hit me and I started getting like these panic attacks and feeling like super anxious about stuff. And I had no idea, because it was like a physical feeling, not like in my head. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I've always kind of been pretty much like, every day is a new day. I'm always very positive about everything, but my body had actually gone like, no, like you need to deal with the stress. But yeah, at the time, it feels like, your world is over, and especially hearing anyone else talk about you. I remember there was like some of my mum's friends, they were talking to my mum about like, oh, you're not disgusted that he owed this money, like VAT. And I remember just being like, this is just so strange, because like companies go bust all the time and no one's ever looking and being like, oh, these horrible people. And I think we had like maybe 35 grand debt in VAT. It wasn't like millions, I wasn't like trying to rob people. It was just, I didn't know how to run a business properly. I didn't have enough experience. So when this article comes out, I then write a reply to it. And, I basically just held my hands up and said, like, these are all the mistakes that I made that led to where we are today. All I want to do is like build a great company, work in the creative industry, build beautiful brands, and make our clients happy. And I think we've done that. You know, in terms of like all of our clients, we didn't have anyone who was really unhappy, apart from the guy who tried to sue us to get his money. But everyone was happy. All of our clients had done amazing work. Our team loved what we were doing. I'm like, so I did everything that I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to run a business. I didn't know how to balance all the books. I didn't know what would happen if our revenue changed month on month. I'd never experienced these things before. So I put out an article that said that. And fortunately, the internet piled back in and said, we're right with you. And a lot of prominent CEOs from huge companies got in touch with me, and they told me a story of when they'd failed and their first business idea had like not worked. And they were saying like, you know, this is a battle scar. This is going to teach you everything you need to know. This is going to humble you in a way you've never been humbled, but you cannot give up because you have a great talent. And no one can argue that the work you've done is so much better than a lot of the people that are out there. So don't quit. That's the signal that you need. And that was amazing to hear that. You know, that was like just pure energy, like you're there, right? You know, like I think Richard Branson had like 7 liquidations or something. So it's like there clearly is a reason why people fail, and it's like you never learn if you don't fail. You know, it's like a little kid. Was that great quote? Like if you're a little kid and your kid falls over, you don't say to him, "That's it, give up walking now. You don't need to walk ever again." Then you just go get back up again. And that's the same with business. You have to keep going. And it fundamentally changed me as a person. Because when we relaunched Noir 2.0, we'll call it, we changed the business. We removed the ego from it. We removed like, you know, over shouting. We didn't partake in any awards whatsoever because we're like, we don't need someone else to tell us that we're doing well. And, you know, we really thought about the whole process of like, how do we build a scalable model? And the good thing is I'd partnered with this guy, Jamie, who's my business partner today, and he's incredible.
And this was the guy who had the marketing agency.
Yeah. So we'd actually, Jamie had come to me like a couple of years before, and he was thinking of setting up this like paid social media agency. And he'd worked at 4 big agencies, but he wanted to go out on his own, and he was asking me for advice. So we'd met for a coffee, stayed in touch, and kind of mentored him a little bit on the steps that he needed to go through. And then when all this happens, me and Jamie were already in these conversations about kind of like merging our skills together, because the thing with agency world is in branding, it's projects, and in marketing, it's retainers. So, you know, there was a clear problem. So, you know, for a branding agency, you're getting these big ticket items, but they're sporadic with their revenue. You know, that you might make 50 grand one month and 20 grand the next month. But with the marketing retainers, it's like 8 grand every single month. So it's very scalable, and you've got the cash flow coming in. But on the marketing side, because it's retainers, you're not getting these huge projects. So you don't get that huge amount of cash flow through. But combined together, that meant that we would always have this running cash flow come through from the retainers, but we'd also have access. And it helps throughout the process. We were launching these brands and then we would disappear. And that was really bad because you couldn't keep the connection with the client. Whereas if they then turned into a retainer after a project, it was just a great model. So yeah, we start with this and we really redefine how we're doing it. And as we're building these brands, because of the team that Jamie had already put together, he had all these key marketing people where when we built a website, we could focus much more on conversion, and it was set up for the marketing campaigns that would come after that.
And what did his business trade? Was he called Noir at that point then, or did you drop the Noir name?
So he was called Roto, and then we sort of became Noir. We traded under, changed the name and relaunched on things because we'd obviously built up like a great reputation with what we were doing.